controversial question. You know the way Nigerian and Ghanaian have like this fight about whose jollof rice is best? You guys also like have your part in it.
We do. Actually, Cameroonians have jollof rice, but Cameroonians, I don't involve myself in that particular argument because I usually tell people we don't eat jollof like that in Cameroon. We do make jollof, but like jollof rice is not that's like in the rank of our dishes. Jollof rice is not like highly ranked. That's what every Cameroonian would tell you.
Okay.
And so we don't bother ourselves with that Ghanaian versus Nigerian jollof. And honestly, wherever I find myself, there are always more Nigerians and Ghanaians, and I don't have the strength.
Hello everyone. My name is Bukola, and I'm the host for the job series. And my guest is
Najala, and I'm a first year medical student at the University of Stony Brook.
so what are you? The University of what?
I'm at Stony Brook University for
Stony Brook. Where's that located?
It's located in Stony Brook, New York.
Stony Brook, New York. Okay. So, you are from Cameroon.
Yes, I am.
What part of Cameroon?
I am ethnically from Pine, which is in Mezam division in the northwest region of Cameroon. That's where my village is. But I grew up in the southwest region in Mutangene. And so I'm from the English region. So northwest and the southwest are the English regions. Ethnically from the northwest and grew up in the southwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's not like I know a lot about Cameroon, but that's interesting. The fact that you guys have like the French region and the English and
But if you put it that way, the people I know if some French Cameroonians I know if they watch this video, they'll probably get mad and be in the comment sections like, oh, Cameroon is one. It's semantics. Yeah, we do have English regions and we have French regions.
okay. So in the fact that you started schooling in is it Mississippi or Massachusetts?
Mississippi.
Mississippi is 2019. So are you still an international student?
Yes, I am. I am still an international student. Yeah, so I applied to med school as an international student and I'm in med school as an international student.
So as an international student for you right now, do you get funding or do you pay out of pocket?
So I use loans. So I don't have
Okay.
that kind of money to pay out of pocket for med school. But
Okay.
for undergrad, when I was an undergrad, was a combination of family support and scholarships. So I was an RA, which took care of my housing, my meal plan, and health insurance. And I had like an honors college scholarship, but it was a couple $1,000 and a couple of scholarships here and there that reduced the total cost, but I still needed family support to fill in the gap of what was left. So that's how it worked for me for undergrad. Now in med school, it's significantly more expensive. And it's a graduate program, so you kind of have to take responsibility of your education at this point. So I'm actually funding myself with loans. So I took a private loan because as an international student, you don't qualify for federal loans. So I took a private loan with Discover Loans, which I required a co-signer for. I was lucky enough to have a U.S. citizen co-sign my first year loan. So that's the situation for me right now. I did get like a private scholarship, which was about $6,000, which just was like a dent in my cost, but it's still like a significant amount of money that I need to make up. So it's mostly loans. I pray that I get lucky here and there and get scholarships to supplement, but it's mostly loans.
So from your perspective, is medical school expensive?
It is. It's not only my point of view.
Yeah, because some people would argue that why would some people go into this much debt and they don't know like the information of how the process actually works for them before they actually get to that stage. So that's why I was asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's quite expensive. Especially as an international student, it's quite expensive. So
Yeah,
going in, you want to make sure that it's something you want to do and see through. I know for US citizens, they usually go in and take the debt One, because they can get like federal interest rates, which are generally lower. Second, because there are loan forgiveness programs that they expect to benefit from in the future that will reduce the total loans they owe. And then there are many subsidiary programs that the state has to help like medical students who took federal loans. As an international student, you're not taking federal loans. So if you're going down this road, you really want to make sure that this is what you want to do and go through to the end. To be fair, doctors are generally able to pay back. You would be able to make the money to pay back in a couple years once you're done. I'm sorry, once you're done residency and start working as an attending, typically you're able to pay the money back if you live within your means. But yeah, that's all I can say. People probably take in the loans because you're projected to be able to pay back, hopefully, if you don't drop out.
Don't drop out. Okay. So, right now, for you being, so, oh, let me divert. Let me go somewhere else. Let me not go into education this time. Let me go somewhere else. Okay, you are in New York.
Yes.
It's a part of New York.
Yeah.
Even you, okay, but will you argue that New York is quite more diverse than every other state you have visited?
So I'm in New York State, but I'm in Long Island, New York. And I will tell you, Long Island, New York is not the most diverse place in New York.
Okay.
New York City, whenever I go down there, very diverse. It looks like a very diverse area. In the city itself, New York City, very diverse. Areas around the city seem very diverse to me compared to every other place I've been to. I've stayed in. I think is the most diverse I've been. But not Long Island, where my school is at. It's not very diverse, but like the city itself is a very diverse place compared to any other place I've lived in. I lived in Florida for 1 year, but I did not live like South Florida. South Florida is definitely more diverse than North Florida. Um, but I lived in North Florida. Mississippi is not a very diverse place. Especially where I lived in Hattiesburg. So yeah, every place I've lived has not been very diverse. But if I had to comment for New York City, it is more diverse, but not Long Island.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. I mean, from my experience, I would say New York is diverse. I visited New York before. I visited the city, and I would say it's diverse. And there are some parts that are quite isolated to some ethnic group.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'll say some part. New Jersey was where we lived. At was where we had our Airbnb, and that part was more isolated to like the Mexicans. So, but down to the city part, it's quite diverse. And yeah, ATL and be that I'm living in the city of ATL too. I'll say ATL is diverse too, compared to like the places I've been. I don't know a lot about Los Angeles. I don't know a lot about Los Angeles.
I've been to LA briefly. I didn't go out a ton, but it's also one of those like central places where you see a ton of people.
Yeah, I see a ton of people. Yeah, it is diverse a little bit. Yeah.
But I think that's also like I feel like every state is almost like that, where you have like a point where a place in the state, it's in a state where it's super diverse. So I can tell you in Georgia, LaGrange, Georgia, because that's why I stay from in Georgia.
What's the name of the place you stayed?
LaGrange. It's like
The
an hour,
Grange.
it's like an hour away from Atlanta.
Okay.
It's not a very diverse place. So like I feel like every state has like the hub of diversity. And then well, I don't think every state, correct me, I don't think every state because there's some states that throughout.
They are so isolated. Yes. That's some say that's so isolated.
But like the major states, they usually have like a hub where like, oh, everything it seems very diverse, and then you drive about 2 hours out and you realize that, oh damn, this is a
Yeah.
completely different story.
Yeah, I would say maybe that's one of my reasons whereby I feel like I don't think I necessarily want to go outside ETL, like
Yeah.
outside. So yes, then you find yourself in this space whereby you might probably be the only Nigerian, which I doubt because there's a lot of Nigerians here.
Hmm.
But I don't want situations like that. That's why I might not necessarily want to like go outside, or necessarily like visit some other states.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Huh? Though you do have family and you're still an international student, do you kind of like feel that loneliness as a student?
Yeah, I don't get to see them all year round.
Yeah.
You still have that feeling of loneliness. But the good thing is you make friends where you are and they become like your family away from family and you don't feel it that much anymore. So it's
Mm-hmm.
more so you really feel like the first couple days when you just move to a new place and you don't know anybody, but once you
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good thing about school. Like school is easy to meet people around your age, like with similar interests. However,
Yes.
when I was working, that was a whole different story because then the people you're working with are not necessarily around your age and they don't necessarily have the same goals as you and they cannot necessarily hang out with you in the kind of environments you want to hang out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit different where so my one gap here it was kind of was a different vibe because I couldn't really make friends because I wasn't in school.
Mm-hmm.
And but med school moved here, you know people, but once school started, you meet your classmates, you have similar interests, you have a similar goal, and you don't feel that loneliness anymore. And I
Okay.
get to see my family every now and then, like over the Christmas break.
Okay. So ever since you got here, have you gone back home?
No, I have not. I'm not gonna say much about that, but I have not. I've actually not really had the opportunity to, even if I wanted to. So I started 2019, no, 2019, 2020, COVID,
Yeah.
COVID, and then I was graduating already, and I'm like applying to med school. It's like one thing of after the order, but the good thing is my family was actually here for Christmas. Like my other siblings came to visit,
Mm-hmm.
so I've gotten to see a bunch of my family members. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to education.
Okay.
So educate me. I want you to educate me right now. I know for graduate school, some of these graduate students they have a research they're working on. So
Mhm.
you as a med student, do you have a research you're working on?
So it's not compulsory, but let me backtrack a bit. So even as an undergrad, I did research. So as an undergrad, I investigated some thing about mosquitoes, which got published. Um, but right now, it's not compulsory. You're not required to do research to graduate. You can graduate without doing research,
Mm-hmm.
except you're doing an MD PhD where you're doing an MD and a PhD, so you kind of have to do research. MD PhD where you're kind of required to do research. But medical students still do research, but most times they do research in the field they think they want to go into because it makes you a competitive person. Also, plus it's a way to further explore your interest. So if I was interested in OB-GYN to become a gynecologist, I can reach out to one of the OB-GYN doctors and be like, hey, I'm interested in this specialty. Do you have any projects that I can hop on and work with you on? And I can learn more about like OB-GYN or like maybe start searching the maternal mortality rates in Black women, stuff like that. Anything I'm passionate about. So my students would usually get involved in research related to the specialty that they're interested in pursuing. That's not a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's backtrack a bit to like 2019 when you got here. Was there any form of imposter syndrome when you got here? Like the feeling that you might not necessarily meet the quality or you might not necessarily fit in?
Yeah, I know. Let me explain. So, like, I never for 1 minute ever think that I was not going to do well in undergrad. However, I did worry that I was gonna stick out like a sore thumb because apparently being smart is not a cool thing the first year, freshman year. So there's a funny story, especially in Mississippi. I don't think they see immigrants or people from other countries a lot. So I remember my first class was a biology class. I was very excited. I was like, "Oh, I know this thing." I was putting on my hand and answering questions. And whenever I spoke, my accent was very thick at the moment, at the time. And you see everyone turn and look at me and turn and look at me, and you're like, "How does she even know that?" Like stuff like comments like that, right?
Mhm.
Or like in chemistry lab where I already knew what they were talking about, and like I'll go ahead and do the experiments and I'm done, and like stuff like that. It was not like I ever felt like I was gonna not be able to do the academic work, but more so I started feeling like, oh, I'm sticking out too much. So I
Mm,
kind of like stopped talking in class, didn't ask them many questions, kind of slowed down my pace in doing things to more so try to fit in. So it was not imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here because I don't feel like I qualify. It was more so not being able to fit in because I don't know what's happening to other people around me.
mm,
Uh, which at some point I just got used to because it's like Mississippi. I don't think people are very used to seeing people from other countries in Mississippi. More so in Mississippi, I feel like it was also difficult for people to understand that you could be a Black woman and be smart.
okay.
I felt like people were having difficult. I feel like some people used to look at me and like suffer some cognitive dissonance, trying to be like, "Oh, she's a Black woman from Africa and she's smart."
Mhm.
I feel like they used to look at me and like, "Oh, how does this make sense?" But anyways,
Yeah,
but once I kind of understood that it was not a me problem, it was more of a them problem, I was just fine.
misinformation. Yeah,
Yes.
I've had someone. This is funny because what year was it? Was it 2021? About someone approached me and be like, do you guys have plane in Africa or in Nigeria? And I played along. Actually, I played along because I don't want the situation whereby the conversation is prolonged. So I was just like,
Hmm.
no, no, we don't. We don't have planes. We no, the trees are. There's a lot of trees. Yeah, we stay with animals. Yes, yes. So I mean, it's that. I'm like, I was a little bit surprised because it's 2021. You guys. I mean, we have some international student down here, but we have some immigrant down here. You guys should at least educate yourself that it's not what was put on TV that it is back home. Like we do get educations. Some of us are smart. We do create stuff. Like we get stuff done. It was just, I don't know. It was just an experience, though. It was just a shocking experience to me, though.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, what's your living situation? Are you living on campus or?
Oh, so I don't live on campus. I live off campus with other med students. So Long Island, apparently you don't have apartments. So we so a bunch of med students usually just like rent a house and we each have our own room and we
Oh,
share the
okay.
experience.
So
Yeah.
situations like that, do you think there are sometimes conflict might come in, or is it a good thing or a bad thing, or is it difficult? Because I know some people. There have been there was one of my guests I spoke to, and she was like, "Oh, I forgot to tell people to pick your roommates wisely when picking when picking an apartment to stay in."
Um yes and no. So I live with all med students, right? So we kind of understand the experience of being in med school.
Okay.
We don't necessarily have conflicts. I think the closest we get to having any form of conflicts is more so because we have like M1s and like a first year med student, second year med student, third years that kind of have different schedules. And sometimes we have to be mindful of each other's schedules. You know, oh, this person has an exam this at this time. This person has to be up at 6 a.m. to be in the
Mhm.
hospital. But typically, I don't think we have conflicts. We've not had any conflicts. I'm still here. So yeah, I think med students in general are very, I would say the people I stay with are very mindful and
Mhm.
very considerate uh,
Okay.
of each other. So
That's nice.
it's
That's
also cheaper. To be fair, I was going for more, I was going for a cheap option
okay.
for comfort.
Okay, yeah,
Like, oh, this is New York. I'm not, things are already expensive.
it is.
I'm about to like blow out the bank trying to get a comfortable apartment. I just want a place where I can lay my head within my budget.
So even you being in Long Island, that's where you are right now.
Yes, I am.
I don't want you to give me a specific number, but what's the range of the apartments?
Where I live is below, how much I pay is less than $1,000 a month.
That's
Um,
really good, right?
yeah. Well, I don't live alone. I live with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that some of the students down here to pay less than $1,000 if they're living in a home and they're not living alone. So if they're living in like an apartment complex and they're not even still living alone, I know some of them are paying above $1,000.
Yeah, so it's less than $1,000. Um, I live 6 minutes away from school, which is great.
Yeah,
Um,
which is right.
a long commute. But I know I also have classmates who are paying over $1,000. Um, the range people like, yeah, the ranges, it just depends on what you get. Like you can get lucky and find like I think I was lucky and I found a really nice place with a really nice price, really close to school. So I'm not spending that much money on gas either. But yeah, I pay less than $1,000. Even with amenity, like not amenities, even with utilities, it's still less than $1,000.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I know some people avoid New York because of the prices. So, but that's interesting to get that from your perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's touch base with mental health. So I would imagine you feel stressed, tired. I mean, like overwhelmed sometimes. How do you deal with it?
I go to sleep. No, to be completely transparent with you, I go to sleep. Like, yeah, I just come home and just sleep. Yeah, like to be honest, I don't do yoga or Pilates or mindful meditation. No, I go to sleep. I go to sleep if I'm getting too stressed. I just because I would probably shut down, so I'll probably just sleep.
Mhm.
But, like when I'm not extremely stressed out, when I like with exams, I still have a bit of free time. Like now, I go to the gym.
Okay.
I work out a lot. But like in that moment when I'm super stressed, I just sleep. I
Have
just
you oh,
sleep.
okay. Have you heard of maybe have you like come in contact of any international student that feels like it is too the education aspect or like what they're currently doing right now is too overwhelming to the essence that they have to seek out therapy?
The question is, have I come across? No, I have not.
Okay.
I have not come across. Mm-mm, I have not.
That's good. I mean,
Also, I don't feel
another
like
question. Oh, sorry.
people talk about their stresses a lot across specialties. Does that make sense? Like if I feel stressed, most times I would talk to someone else who is in med school. So I hardly see people talk about their stress across like, oh, I'm stressed in med school. I'm telling somebody who is like doing like masters in
Mhm.
geology. I don't really
So
see,
it's
yeah, I don't really see people like because I don't feel like I will understand their stress as much as they'll probably not understand my stress either. But I've not come
Mhm.
across anybody that had to seek therapy. You're about to ask
Okay.
me a question.
Oh yes. You know the way Nigerian and Ghanaian have like this fight about whose jollof rice is best? You guys also like have your part in it.
We do. Actually, Cameroonians have jollof rice, but Cameroonians, I don't involve myself in that particular argument because I usually tell people we don't eat jollof like that in Cameroon. We do make jollof, but like jollof rice is not like in the rank of our dishes. Jollof rice is not like highly ranked. That's what every Cameroonian would tell you.
Okay.
And so we don't bother ourselves with that Ghanaian versus Nigerian jollof. And honestly, wherever I find myself, there are always more Nigerians and Ghanaians, and I don't have the strength. I honestly never have the strength to go into that whole matter. So
Okay, but have you tasted both sides?
I've tasted Nigerian jollof. I haven't tasted Ghanaian jollof.
Okay. So you can't
I've
really
tasted Nigerian jollof a couple of times. I've tasted Nigerian jollof in Nigeria. I've tasted Nigerian jollof my friends made here. Because I told them the one in no offense, but the one I ate in Lagos the time I went, I was like, yeah, it's rice. So my
When did
friend,
you go to Lagos?
this was probably in 2018
Oh, okay.
when I was in Cameroon. I went to Lagos for something. And then my friends I met when I came here, it's like, oh, because you've not tried Patty Jollof, you've not tried Patty Jollof. I was like, okay,
Sure.
let me wait now. Let me wait. There's like, you're gonna make me Patty Jollof for Friendsgiving. They made the Patty Jollof. It was nice, but it was not that different. I've tried different versions of Nigerian jollof, but I'm still to taste Ghanaian jollof. I've never tried it. I
Okay.
personally feel like the food really depends on whoever the cook is. How good food is depends on whoever the cook is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like nowadays people, because we have access to media and like we see
Mhm.
videos of cooking all the time, we pick up different methods from other people,
Yes.
and it's somewhat blends. Like I would, to be honest, I feel like the way I make my jollof rice now is a little bit different than like I would have made it like maybe 5 years ago when I was in Cameroon, just because I'm learning different techniques and things that make food taste better.
Okay.
So I really think it's the cook, the whoever is making
The
the food,
cook itself.
the
That's the
cook.
magician, not the food.
Yeah, yeah.
Price or anything you want to try out there for international students or people intending to become an international student.
I would say a few things. One, ask questions. If you have a question, ask the question. Especially if you're looking on the internet, you cannot find an answer, you can send out emails to the administration council or whoever in the office and ask the question. Two, don't be scared to get out of your comfort zone. One thing I've learned here is networking and talking to people is such a big part of your experience in the US. So even though you come here, you find your community among other Africans. Don't be timid, don't be shy to reach out to other people from other countries and ask questions and get to know them. One, it's gonna help you socialize quite fast. Two, it's gonna help you build your network, and your peers are your biggest resources. So those are my advice.
Your
Those are my
peers are your biggest resources.
yes. Your peers are one of your biggest resources. People who are going through the same path as you, especially people who have been here before. Because like especially in the medical field, the people who have always known they wanted to do medicine, so they've been doing things since they were in middle school, elementary
Mm-hmm.
school. They know a ton of things. Even more than your professors in school, like in undergrad, because the professors are not medical doctors; they're teachers, right? But your classmates, some of them, their parents are doctors, and they have family members who are doctors. They have the whole network,
Mm-hmm.
and there are things I found out because I became friends with other pre-meds, and they were like, "Oh, Najela, this is something. This is this scholarship I saw on Instagram." Like stuff like that. They're like, "Oh, I feel like you'd be great for this thing." Like I've gotten a lot of resources from my friends that I made in undergrad. So yeah, your peers are your biggest resources. And these people were not necessarily Africans. They're actually not Africans. They're African American and white, a couple of white people. So your peers are one of your biggest resources as an international student who doesn't have a network. They are your first network. So make good.
And would you say it's advisable to network as much as you can before you leave uni or before you leave college? Or before you
Yeah.
get done with your program?
Yeah, Yeah, go for conferences. Like if you have a program that has like these are things that I never got to do because I was like, oh, this is gonna be a waste of my money, like traveling for a conference and whatever. But like go for conferences. If you're like in, I don't know, whatever, my special like medicine, they have like this AMEC conference every year for minorities in medicine. Like I wish I went for that conference. Like if you know about conferences, go for conferences. If you can start doing research as an undergrad, try to present your research or your abstract at these conferences. Let push your name out there so people know who you are. Because again, there's so many people come here for undergrad, for graduate programs. But the thing with international students is we kind of hesitate to break out of our shell and
Mm,
really start like mingling with other people from other places.
mhm,
So once you get here, that should be something you should be doing. It's okay to have your community who are also like say African, but also don't forget you have to like break out and see what other people are doing and expanding your network.
mm.
Yeah.
It's interesting.